So anyway, I don't know. I think, again, we come down to what I talked about, behavioral psychology. This entire Gonzalo Lira event should be written up someday as a case study in behavioral psychology, human behavioral psychology. You could keep college course on this.
Was Gonzalo Lira a secret agent for the SBU? Did inmates really torture him while in Ukrainian jail? Why hasn't the US requested extradition for an American citizen who was arrested in Ukraine? Hello everyone, I'm a facts hunter, and today I'm exploring the rumors that Gonzalo was a secret SBU agent. Where did these rumors came from? And is there some truth to them? Stick to the end of the video and take a look at the facts, because, as always, when talking about Gonzalo Lira, things are not always what they seem.
The Facts Hunter.
First, let's get all on the same page by establishing the specifics of the rumors. On August 1st, 2023, Scott Ritter posted a series of tweets that set up the controversy questioning the legitimacy of Gonzalo's arrest and subsequent release. In the tweets, Scott Ritter created a fictional scenario similar to the narrative that Gonzalo Lira told in his videos before his failed attempt to cross the Ukrainian border with Hungary. In the tweets, Ritter gives the multiple-choice potential answer to the scenario. A. Working for the SBU. B. Making this story up. C. Trying to hype a future book or movie. Or D. All of the above. On the following weeks, Ritter will talk about the reasons for the tweets when interviewed by other bloggers and podcasters.
What I would say that, Scott. I have your cheeky tweets right here. It seems that you don't really buy what Gonzalo Lira has been saying.
You know, my time in the intelligence business is dated somewhat, but you know, we knew how to track IP numbers and things of that nature. And I don't care how good Gonzalo Lira thinks he is. He is a known name at a known address. The Ukrainians had to know what he was doing, and yet they let him continue doing it. And I found that to be suspicious and or foolhardy.
Scott Ritter tells the events that led to his fallout with Gonzalo Lira.
One of his tweets, he pinned, he listed a series of names, and he said, if I'm ever missing for more than 12 hours, assume that I've suffered the same fate. Some of the people, all those people have been arrested, tortured by the Ukrainian government for the crime of speaking out. Some of them have been killed. In April, he disappeared for 5 days. And I was concerned. And so nobody was speaking out. And so I wrote an article. And I sent some tweets, and then I wrote an article trying to draw attention to this. And you know, the article, I said, if the reports of Gonzalo Lira's death are true, then the silence of the Western media and journalists is deafening. And I thought I was doing Gonzalo a favor, trying to draw attention to this, trying to see if he was alive. Maybe there could be intervention to bring him back and all this.
He tells of how Gonzalo had lashed out at him after Ritter commented on the potential death of Lira after Gonzalo's first disappearance back in 2022.
Well, he was alive. He was released shortly thereafter, and he took umbrage, extreme umbrage, I should say, at what I did. He accused me of, saying he had been murdered, that he was dead, and I'm like, dude, I didn't say that. You said that. You said if you're 12 hours gone, boom. Anyways, he started viciously attacking me. And at that point in time, as you know, I said, I just really don't want to have anything more to do with this guy. I don't trust him
and
at all.
As expected, Gonzalo's fans were furious at Scott Ritter.
And this all goes back to a disagreement that they both had. They hate each other. They were both incapable of putting their differences aside and focusing on the main issue. And so he's has this opportunity to use his very large platform to help Gonzalo. He decided to use it to hurt him instead.
The alternative media community began to split.
Which, look, Gonzalo Lira, I've known about his past work. I've never thought the guy was a good guy. I've never thought Gonzalo Lira is like this upstanding, fighter for all kinds of great things. Many of the stuff he said when he was doing his relationship shows, he's very, in my personal opinion, pretty misogynistic, said a lot of really unsavory things. Not somebody that I would, not somebody I would recommend women date, kind of a thing.
A rift emerged between Gonzalo's fans and the rest of the community.
And my thing is, one way, it doesn't matter to me about this because I barely know him. I think I posted a video of him once or twice, but I'm trying to get some questions answered that a lot of people were asking. And why I'm trying to get to the point is, why is he getting a pass when nobody else gets a pass for things like this?
There's a couple reasons why. Again, I think one part of it is that part of the people that should be holding to account are people who have been following him for a period of time and have bought into the Gonzalo Lira mystique. If you start questioning the Messiah, you start to question everything you believe in. So if you've rebuilt your life around the teachings of Gonzalo Lira, your lifestyle coach, you can't allow him to be diminished in any way. And so they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt plus over, because that's reflected on. Now, there's a whole group of people that didn't know him beforehand, but they went to the round table. And they were in the round table. The round table being this discussion group that he would have. And for them to start to question Gonzalo Lira today begs the question: why didn't you question him when he was doing the round table? And they don't want to answer that question because the answers, there's not too many people want to look in the mirror and say, I was a dupe. Oh, I was a dupe. I mean, that's the most honest thing to say is, I was a dupe. Look, if I had gone to the round table after his arrest, today I'd be going out and saying, I was a dupe. I was an idiot. I should have been more questioning. I should have asked more questions. I shouldn't have participated in this. But there's a lot of people out there right now, especially, I mean, again, I like these guys, the two Alexes at the Duran. I think highly of them. But, they helped create Gonzalo Lira. They helped create the round table. They were part of this thing. And so how can they possibly look critically at this? What they've done is say they don't want to look at it at all. What they're saying is, all we care about is releasing Gonzalo Lira. We want him released. Okay, I respect that. I think all of us would like to see, as a human being, him released. Nobody wants harm to come to Gonzalo Lira.
There's a question here. What about Scott Ritter's claim that Gonzalo is an SBU agent? And Angelo, we'll start with Alexander. What would he even have been doing as an SBU asset or agent?
Well, he wouldn't be doing anything as an SBU agent, and of course he isn't an SBU agent. I think we need to make that absolutely clear. I mean, I like yourself, I've been asking myself, well, first of all, anybody who knows Gonzalo would know that you don't recruit a person like that. I mean, intelligence agencies don't recruit people like Gonzalo. He's far too unpredictable a personality for an intelligence agency to want to recruit. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But secondly, exactly what would he be doing, publishing things that are critical of Ukraine? I mean, what would be the purpose of it? I mean, I am at a complete loss to understand the logic here. So, I think we can put aside that story. I mean, it doesn't make any kind of sense. There isn't any evidence to support it.
Alex, what do you think? What do you think Gonzalo would have been doing as an SBU agent?
I think all of this SBU stuff is muddying the waters. It's, to me, I say the right thing to do from all angles is to deport the guy, deport him. He was talking bad about your country. The Ukraine government has all the right to deport.
Apparently, the division of the community was mostly demarcated by the difficulty of separating Gonzalo Lira from the actual mission of the community, which was to support for the right of freedom of speech, regardless if it was in alliance with the mainstream media or not.
But it doesn't matter. I don't need to think he's a great person to defend his right to free speech. Bad people deserve the right to free speech. Horrible people deserve the right to free speech. Criminals deserve the right to free speech.
But getting to the truth of the rumors is not as easy as it seems. When Scott Ritter was asked to produce evidence to back up his claims of Gonzalo Lira being an agent of the SBU, Ritter could not produce the evidence requested, and even at times he would appear angry and frustrated.
I've talked to Scott about this. I asked him what his evidence was. He says he has none. It's just a feeling. I asked him what his explanation was as to what Gonzalo even would be doing as an SBU asset, and he could not produce a convincing argument about that. As a matter of fact, he changed his story twice before concluding that he is the intelligence expert and he doesn't have to explain it.
However, Scott Ritter received support from some of the members of the alt media community, in particular from a channel called Geolocation.
Hi, I'm George Eliason, and I'm doing this video in support of the video Scott Ritter did the other day regarding Gonzalo Lira and who he actually is.
According to the host of the channel, George Eliason, he claims he had spoken to people who had been reached by Gonzalo Lira, who apparently was attempting to seek help, but was requesting more than just help. Apparently, Gonzalo was trying to obtain the physical address of the people he was reaching to.
I reached out to a few online people, but not all of the people that I know from the online world. Not because of anything in particular, but just, I wanted to get in touch with people who could, help me out in a practical way insofar as this current situation is concerned. Unfortunately, all the avenues that I tried, and a couple of them were grifters. It was clear as day, they wanted money. And the others, they had a lot of good intentions, but they didn't know what the hell they were doing. And so ultimately I was not able to find a Sherpa, a guide, who could get me through.
The facts are what matter. And over the last month, Gonzalo Lira himself said he was reaching out to people he thought could help them. Well, I've talked to a couple of them. And one of them said, over and over again, he was trying to get their physical address. Why would Gonzalo Lira in Ukraine need their physical address? And keep in mind, these people are very much in the reach of the SBU. After the last phone call to one particular person, after they hung up, within seconds they got a phone call from the United States. They didn't answer it. What they did was they contacted someone else in the US to try to trace the number. The number came up untraceable. The call was made from a burner phone, someone that didn't want to be identified, but somehow or other must have been hooked up with Gonzalo Lira. It was directly afterwards. It happened the one time, it never happened again. We'll start with metadata. Scott Ritter talked about data and metadata and how that can affect you. Now, Scott Ritter gave a lot of information about what happens with metadata. That every time you comment, they can trace where you are. They can trace who you are. Now, how does this flesh out to what Scott was talking about? Well, Lira is with the SBU, and everyone that's commenting on his videos, everyone that's trying to help them, all this metadata, IP data, location data, and all the trappings that go with it, where do you work, where do you live, it's all being collated. And what I think we're looking at is Purge 2 going to happen fairly soon. And I think that's what this whole thing was meant to set up.
So not only did Gonzalo try to find the physical address of some people, but he also made it possible for the SBU to find the location of anybody who left a comment on his videos.
Now, in 2015, I did a lot of investigative pieces on the actual people working with Ukraine. And the man that actually taught them this was a guy named Andrew Aaron Weisberg. Now, if you look at the images by me, back in the 2000s, he started teaching the FBI and Department of Homeland Security geolocation by IP. And he was hired at the beginning of 2015 by a group called Strategic Communications Laboratories and Iota Global to teach the Ukrainians how to locate people, geolocate them by IP. If you look at this document where he talks about it, what I didn't show was down below there are a few hundred visitors to that site that were geolocated. And he's commenting that most of them were at work at the time. This shows the data right down to the operating system and browser they're using. Not just the location. It was a great tool for hackers. And that's who they were turning it over to.
Now, at this point, a lot of people from the alt media community were still willing to give Gonzalo the benefit of the doubt. After all, Gonzalo has claimed that he was tortured by the inmates under the direction of the prison guards, who Gonzalo claimed were working along with the SBU.
You are a principled person because you're also willing to do something for people you don't necessarily like or agree with, but just because it's the right thing to do. And I want everyone to think about that for a moment. People who are saying his story doesn't add up, so does that mean we just throw him back into prison and let him be tortured by Nazis? I don't see how you could make that argument at all.
To his claims of being tortured, there are several arguments that need to be made. Fortunately, these arguments were better done by the same members of the alt media community. This is what Scott Ritter has to say about one of Gonzalo's claims.
Do I think we should, be respectful of certain aspects of the story? I do. I think there's things that, we can say, well, we don't know, and these are questions we'd like to ask, but there's other things that we do know. We do know he claimed to have broken ribs. We do know that he claimed to ride a motorcycle for 1,400 miles with broken ribs. I couldn't walk 14 steps with broken ribs, So it's fair to raise that point. It doesn't mean maybe Gonzalo Lira, is the guy with the greatest physical health. He isn't, at least claims that hard. He's still sort of fat and soft and all that, but maybe under that marshmallow exterior, there's this core of steel that he can, Zen-like go and make the pain go away while he's riding his motorcycle on the bumpy Ukrainian roads. Even doing that, that would hurt if you had broken rib, right?
If a man such as myself, 55 years old, 83 kilos, not in the best of shape, gets in the ring with Mike Tyson in his prime, we know how it's going to end, right? It was 7 other prisoners and myself, and as soon as I arrived, they beat the shit out of me. And they tortured me that time. It started on June 21st at 1 p.m. and it lasted 30 hours. It included beatings, it included sleep deprivation. I've been beaten up, so it's not that big of a deal. It's not fun. It hurts, yeah, sure. But when I was young, I got into street fights and crap like that. And sometimes I won, and sometimes I got the shit kicked out of me. So the beatings I could handle, but...
Let's take a look at a little bit of the video he made. He was saying that he was tortured while in prison, and his argument, or his explanation, let's say his story, was that it wasn't by prison guards, it was by other prisoners who were forced to do it by the prison guards.
Contacted these gangsters, probably through the prison guards at CISO, and figured out, or basically had the prisoners in the fourth cell that I was in do the actual dirty work of getting the money out of me, see? Because you see, the guards, they never beat any of the prisoners. No, it's the prisoners who beat the other prisoners. In fact, after this 30-hour session, one of the thugs who had really, really hurt me, I mean, he hit me pretty badly, especially on the chest. He hit me like right here on the sternum, repetitively and so hard that it left this huge bruise. And by the way, the cell boss, the guy higher, berated him for having left a mark on me, because of course, the kind of torture that they want to do doesn't leave a mark. That's the point of it.
It wasn't the SBU or the Ukrainian government that ordered, that tortured him. And here's another part that's just very weird. If you wanted to torture someone but not leave any marks, would you leave it to a street hood? Absolutely not. It just doesn't work that way. You could watch a comedy. It's the stuff of comedies, actually.
But let me show you the part of his story, Scott, that I found very odd. And I'm a little bit sensitive to this because when I was stabbed in a random street robbery a few years ago, my eyeglasses had knife marks all over it, meaning that my glasses saved me from, maybe losing an eye. And so I really shuddered when I read this. This is in the middle of his tweet thread, and he's describing one of the things that supposedly was done to him. And he said, 2 thugs held my head and used a toothpick to scratch the whites of my left eye while asking me if I could still read if I had just one.
2 of these thugs held my head, and one of them used a toothpick to scratch the whites of my left eye. And the other guy, the guy who actually spoke a little bit of English, said, you can read with just one eye, right? Not gonna lie, that really freaked me out. Anyway, after about 30 hours of this, I realized that there was no escape for me.
Now, the part that I found suspicious is that after saying that, he didn't say anything about what it did to him. So I don't know if we have any ophthalmologists in the audience or not, but he doesn't look to have an eye injury. He has his eyeglasses on, which is convenient that he's able to, that was another thing he's able to have. Did you find that out? Can you imagine being scraped in the eye with a toothpick, but it not then leaving you enough of an injury to say anything about it?
I'm not an ophthalmologist.
No, I know, but does that strike you? Does that strike you as odd or no?
Every aspect of his story strikes me as odd. There's none of it that's believable. None of it. Not a single sentence of it's believable.
And about Gonzalo's claims regarding to his left eye being scratched with a toothpick, this is what George had to say.
When he was in prison, he talked about torture. Now, to the person that talked to him directly, he said he was threatened with a toothpick and the food was cold. That was a torture. Now, he says his eye was scratched with a toothpick. Now, your eye heals faster than any other part of your body. It heals. But if you scratch it with a rough cut, and the flap develops because the flap's there because of the cut, which meaning the part of the cornea folds out, you're in a lot of trouble. His eye would not have looked clear. He would not have looked normal. He would have either had to have covered it to keep the light out. He would have been in a lot of pain. I know this because my wife had a scratched cornea about 25 years ago, had to have eye surgery. Now that's if the outside layer in the cornea folds over. Maybe he's lucky and that jagged edge healed itself somehow. Mended back together, I don't know. But that's, it's just another thing that's very, very odd.
The story that Gonzalo tells is fitting for a cheesy Hollywood movie. a straight-to-video movie, but a movie nonetheless. In conclusion, the members of the alt media community are starting to find out who Gonzalo really is.
You have made such a tremendous effort to explain yourself, including a 3-hour Twitter Spaces, at least a half an hour here with me, and now your most extensive article yet. So maybe they'll at least acknowledge that you've given an explanation that they could possibly address. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm at the point where you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But with all due respect to everybody, and I mean everybody, and I'm talking about you, Larry Johnson, I'm talking about you, Brian Bertolek, I'm talking about the Duran people that, I like. I think they're nice people. I don't know Brian, so I can't say I like Brian because I've never met him. That would be disingenuous. But I like the Duran. I like Larry Johnson. But back the fuck off. And there I am using the F word. You guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. Let's put it in proper perspective, please. We're at war. Okay, you may not think you're at war, but we're at war because the other side, those guys that we always criticize, the Ukrainians, the Nazis, the SBU, all these bad guys, they're real. It isn't a figment of your fucking imagination. They put out a hit list called the Mirtvorets hit list. I'm on it. Some of you might be on it. It's not a fucking joke. They kill people. Okay, they have an organization called the Center for Countering Disinformation. You know what they do for a living? Information warfare against you, whether you want it or not, whether you think you're the bad guy or the enemy or combatant or not. They view you as the enemy. They call you an information terrorist. I've seen a lot of people going, that's a ridiculous concept. I'm not debating the point, but what I'm trying to tell you is they view you as an information terrorist. And from their perspective, that means you're a terrorist with all that attends. That means you can be killed. That means you're a combatant, an enemy combatant. You don't have any rights. We're at war. Wake the fuck up, guys. You're out here pretending that this is some sort of debating club. It's not. It's not a game. It's real. They will kill you. They have already killed people. They're going to kill more people. They've tried to kill people. It's not a game. So for you to sit there in your little cloud and pretend that what happened to Gonzalo Lira is just a fucking sense of coincidence, man. Oh yeah, he was arrested by the SBU. The SBU, the people who made the Mirtvorets hit list to kill people. By the way, Gonzalo Lira was on that list. Why is he still alive if he was in SBU custody? Question number one. Answer that one. You can't. He was arrested for what? For carrying out actions that the Ukrainian government deemed to be information terrorism, which they liken to terrorism. He's a fucking terrorist in the custody of the SBU who kills people like him. But they released him 5 days later. Yeah, they took his computers, they took his phones, but they let him get another computer and hop right back on the internet to do the exact same information terrorism. And nobody asked a fucking question. How stupid can you be? We're at war, people. This isn't a game. The SBU flipped him. It's called a police confidential informant. Hey, Larry Johnson, off. You and your CIA guy. What a disingenuous answer that was. Really? No one talked about the CIA recruiting an American citizen. You made that shit up. I never once brought it up. But you know goddamn well what the CIA does. Especially when they're dealing with people that cause paperwork, you silly, stupid person. That was disingenuous, Larry. You know what the CIA does when they have a problematic source like that? They get a friendly service to flip them for them. Yeah, Larry, you know it. I know it because we've done it. I don't know if you've done it. I've done it. Flip them. Let the other service run it. Then you reap the benefits of their job. They have the paperwork. You don't have the paperwork. God almighty. But to pretend, and this is what bothers me, Larry Johnson went out of his way to try and denigrate them when he knows better. He knows goddamn well that they flip people like Gonzalo Lira all the time. For what purpose? Intelligence collection, human intelligence, to get a man on the inside. Cops do it every single day in America. They do it around the world. Intelligence services do it all the time. And yet suddenly, boom, it can't be done to Gonzalo Lira because fucking like him. God, how stupid can you be? We're at war, people. This is a real war. The Ukrainians view this as a matter of life and death. They're fucking around. Gonzalo Lira was flipped. And everybody goes, well, I was on his round table. There was a great conversation. I don't understand the intelligence value. Then you don't understand intelligence. I laid it out for you in the article. Read it. Understand that the very process of carrying out the roundtable gives invaluable insight on the part of Gonzalo Lira's handlers into the behavioral psychology of everybody involved. We're at war, people. They actually have teams of people that evaluate the behavioral psychology to find points of tension, to break teams up, to artificially create teams. Who led those roundtables? I spent a lot of time watching them, man. A lot of time. Gonzalo Lira led them. He was like a conductor in the orchestra, and you became a goddamn member of the orchestra. Hey, Larry, play the fiddle a little bit more. Hey, the Duran, bring up the trombones. Brian, bring in the bass. That was Lira. Boom, 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 boom. I watched it. He manipulated you. He controlled the entire tone, tenor, content. He got you to commit to shit you may not have committed to any other time. He was in charge, and you think he wrote the goddamn script? No, SBU wrote it. He was working for them, collecting behavioral. Now, people say, to what end? Well, again, if you read the article, you'll see that they do these things called events. It's event-driven. They want an event. Let me tell you what event they just got. They got me calling Larry Johnson, a man I like and I respect, a dumb shit on a podcast. That's what they got. Okay, they got Mr. Ritter, Mr. Pavlov's dog. They rang the bell and I jumped for it because they know who I am. They know how to tweak me up. They know who you are. They watched you on the round table. They watched you cave into Lira, to crawl to the throne of Gonzalo Lira and bow before the king of shit.
And there you have it, folks. See, in case you're not familiar with my channel, I've been making videos about Gonzalo for some time now. Actually, I started making videos a few months before he was arrested for the second time. And the reason why I started making the videos is because after I became aware of Gonzalo, I started digging into his past. And because I'm fluent in Spanish, I was able to read newspapers and magazine interviews Gonzalo made all throughout the 90s and the early 2000s. And I found loads of interviews where it is plain for everyone to see that Gonzalo Lira is a compulsive liar. But the point I'm trying to make is that Gonzalo has a long history of using and betraying people for his own convenience. And just to put a picture in your mind, this is a quick look at what Gonzalo has done. 1990 to 2000s, Gonzalo published a book and he claimed he was such a great writer an American publishing house had actually paid him $1 million for the book. After people found out he was a liar, he burned the bridge and moved on. 2003 to 2006, he tricked people into investing money on his own production company. He over-budgeted a movie that was destined to fail so that he could pocket a good chunk of the budget and then left the industry behind. He burned that bridge and moved on. 2008 to 2016, he started a career as an economist blogger, making absurd predictions and stepping on the toes of real accredited economists and scamming one of them out of thousands of dollars. He burned that bridge and moved on. 2017 to 2020, he jumped into the lifestyle and dating coach business, making videos on YouTube, claiming he was making videos to help guide his son in the future. But what people didn't know is that he had abandoned his wife and kids in Ukraine while traveling all over Europe and the United States. He made videos about dating women even though he was a convicted sex offender after sexually assaulting another freshman classmate of his while he was attending class at Dartmouth. And according to his wife, he was under investigation for a case of attempted rape. In the end of this period, he scammed his own followers by creating an Indiegogo campaign where he stole over $10,000 from his fans, claiming he needed that money to publish a book that he never delivered. So he burned that bridge and moved on. 2022 to present, Gonzalo, who has a bachelor's degree in Russian history, not a doctor's or a master's, but a 3-year bachelor's degree in Russian history. He uses his geographical location as a solid, unquestionable accreditation to spread Russian propaganda while claiming he is only exercising his freedom of speech. Now, he is trying to burn that bridge and move on to the next thing by lying to his followers, creating a fake narrative, building up a persona of a martyr for free speech by claiming that he was unjustifiably imprisoned, tortured, and extorted for $70,000. Which, by the way, if we take a look at the most recent court papers, we can read that Gonzalo told the judge that he was fearing for his life because the prison inmates who were trying to extort the $70,000 out of him never actually got their money because the bank didn't approve of the electronic transaction, and the inmates were probably going to get him back for that. Now, in case you dear viewers haven't been paying attention, Gonzalo told his followers in his tweets that he was down $100,000 that he will probably never see again. So he told his followers he lost money, but at the same time, he is telling the judge that he still has the money because the bank declined the electronic transfer of funds.
And this is why when I was asked, who is Gonzalo Lira, way back at the beginning, I said SBU. Gonzalo Lira would not be allowed to have a bank account in Ukraine. The money would be frozen and taken. Gonzalo Lira could not use Western Union in Ukraine because it's tied into the banks. You could not use PayPal or any other means of transferring money. Because what happened to me, I got letters saying we can't do business with you anymore. Would have happened to him right away. Gonzalo Lira would not have $100,000 in the bank to steal and $9,000 on him unless he was getting it across the border, which wasn't happening. So where was the money? Where was he getting it? How was he getting it? Because you see, the money tells the story. Gonzalo Lira, the idea that he could have access to funds coming in, says they were allowing it to happen. They wanted it to happen. Ultimately, what this means is it's a big, elaborate trap.
So anyway, I don't know. I think, again, we come down to what I talked about, behavioral psychology. This entire Gonzalo Lira event should be written up someday as a case study in behavioral psychology, human behavioral psychology. You could keep college course on this.
Now you understand why I made so many videos about Gonzalo Lira? The guy can't stop lying, and yet his followers are so stupid they still believe him and defend him. Well, I hope this video has opened some eyes. I will go back to work on the other videos I have in the pipeline, and I want to thank you for watching this one. Please share this video so more people will become aware of this guy. That's it for the moment. I'm a Facts Hunter. Thank you again for watching, and take care.